Is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi everyone.
Good afternoon and hello. Welcome to the ART webinar series. I'm Lauren Douglas, the Executive Officer of Australian Regional Tourism. And following on from last week's session, COVID-19 and the impacts on tourism, today we've got Rebecca and Paige from Tourism eSchool, who are going to walk us through what we can do right now in our tourism businesses to avoid the COVID-19 crisis. Thanks, Rebecca. Thanks, Paige. I'll hand over to you.
No worries. Thanks so much for that, Lauren.
Thank you.
Yes, I just want to echo what Lauren was saying. We're really stoked to see so many people joining this webinar, and obviously really thankful for the support that Lauren and Coralie and the Australian Regional Tourism Board have given us to be able to facilitate this webinar. We're just so lucky to have such a supportive and passionate organisation that advocates for our regional tourism regions in Australia. So thank you so much for helping out, Lauren. Really appreciate it. So for those who we may not have met, Rebecca and I, we're Tourism eSchool. Rebecca is the one in the stripes here, and I'm Paige to the left of her. Over the last 8 years, Rebecca and I have been working with many tourism businesses, local government organisations and regional tourism organisations to write tourism strategies and to help businesses with their marketing. And so, as you can imagine, we're absolutely shattered to see what's happening to our beloved industry, to see all of this happening to our friends and our colleagues. We're just absolutely gutted for you all. So, we thought the least we could do is try and provide, some support and some resources for you to be able to work your way through this very challenging time. What we decided we'd initially do is try and just get some strategies and actions down on paper. So we've published 3 articles on our blog. One is for tourism businesses, one is for destinations, and more recently, Rebecca's just published one for visitor centres and visitor servicing. But since publishing our tourism business, a few questions from a few of our regional tourism clients to see if we could possibly pop that in a webinar. And so this is why we're here today, to try and bring together some ideas and strategies for what you can do now and what we can do into the future as we sort of progress through this crisis, and hopefully we have many tourism businesses coming out the end of it. So what we'll do is we'll turn off our little webcams and we'll get and hopefully be able to share with you some really great insights. Okay, so state of play. Obviously, things have escalated fairly quickly over the last couple of weeks and the last couple of days, in fact, which has absolutely seen our industry grind to a halt, which is obviously very devastating. So as of today, basically people just need to stay at home. Self-isolation is the recommendation from the federal government and also our state governments. So that basically means, no travelling unless you need to go out and do those essential things. Any business bringing people into close contact is a no-go, which is really devastating. However, accommodation is the only thing sort of seen as an essential service and can perhaps try and work through that, as are sort of takeaway restaurants, if they can sort of adapt their service offering that way. So, the reality is that we've seen many tourism businesses sort of close their doors and staff being stood down, which is absolutely, terrible for those businesses to have to do that. And we're currently in a position of sink or float. The governments and banks are trying to offer life buoys to be able to keep us floating through this, so that we don't sort of lose too much traction with our businesses. So, if you can hold on financially, we've got some tips for you to help you through these really challenging times. So I'm going to pass over to Rebecca now, who's going to run through the 4 main things that you do in your business to try and ride out this crisis, and then I'll come in closer to the end and start thinking about some of those comeback ideas once our heavy restrictions have been lifted. So thanks, Rebecca.
Thanks, Paige. And before we jump in again, we have the chat box as well. So I'd love to hear as we go through. I mean, things are changing literally by the hour, and we've been doing updates literally just right up until this presentation with some of the good examples of things we've seen happening. So as we go through, I will stop and we'll answer your questions as we go through, or if you've got any comments or things you'd like to share, you're most welcome to put them in the chat box as well. So firstly, I'm going to take you through sort of 3 sort of key immediate actions to focus on. So the very first and probably the most important thing we all need to be looking at the moment is self-care. And when we know that in a very, very short space of time, life, as we all know, it has changed. And it's not just for those of you who are running businesses and, looking after, or the massive concern we have for having to let go of staff or looking after them. It's also things like concern for our vulnerable family members and friends, social isolation of older family members who suddenly can't be grandkids. That's what's happening in my family. We've sent all the grandparents to the farms, and they're used to seeing kids really often. They can't do that. We've got a lot of people changes of working at home. So I've got my husband now working at home. Kids aren't home yet, but will be very soon. So again, all quite stressful as well. So I really want to encourage you all to give yourself permission to really do self-care. And what that looks like is a very, very personal thing. But what really want you to have a think about are what are some of the small things you can do every day, really, to look after yourself. And I know for myself, it's things like moving, getting out and a bit of exercise, tidying and organising. It's one of the few things we seem to be able to control at the moment. Creative outlet, whatever your hobbies are. I love reading, gardening, cooking, so I've actually got a little bit more time to do that. Family and friends connection, writing lots of lists, getting enough sleep. It's not rocket science, and I don't want to tell you how to suck eggs. End of the day, we do have a lot of people relying on us, and so again, the more we can do to look after ourselves, makes it a little bit easier to cope with this very, very crazy situation. On the flip side too, really have a think about what you need to do less of. Again, very personal for me at the moment. I'm finding media consumption is like we absolutely need to be kept updated from government, but I find I'm going down the rabbit hole of social media, very easy to be very overwhelmed on there. So, perhaps scale back your media if that's an issue. Numbing activities, it'd be very easy to, fall back on chocolate, alcohol, whatever. So just be aware of that. And also no comparison. Look, there are no playbooks on how to handle this as well. So yeah, again, just try not to compare yourselves or your businesses with what anyone else is doing as well. A second really important thing to consider, and this is sort of where we'll spend a bit of time chatting today, is really looking at what you can do in your business to pivot and innovate. So, the restrictions are really tighter and tighter, and there really isn't a lot more that businesses can do. But at the same time, if it is possible, really have a think about how you can adapt and innovate your tourism experience in light of very strict health and travel restrictions. We're not quite to full lockdown, but essentially we almost are. So really think about inside the square, what are the really tight parameters that you've got to work with? And again, our customers have actually got a lot of new problems that your experience, for some, not everyone, we certainly acknowledge, could solve. So we've got people working from home, we've got kids at home, looking for online learning opportunities. We've got a lot of people wanting to support local businesses. People need to eat, they want to be entertained. People want to use their time to connect, potentially learn new skills. And we also certainly have an amount of people in society that really have to do that 14 days self-isolation if they've been interstate or overseas, that sort of thing. So having a think about that, we're just going to share with you some of the pivots and innovations we've seen from businesses over the last couple of weeks. Some of you may have seen these already, so apologies if you have, but we're updating them as we go, and we'd also love to hear in the chat box if you've seen or you're doing any yourself as well. So firstly, in the hospitality space, as we know, it's really only takeaway now. So it's been pretty incredible to see the digital uptake and movement for pretty much most hospitality businesses. This is a nice example of one of my favourite local cafes here in Adelaide at Brighton, the Cellar Door. So they're a sort of a local providor cafe, and they've moved to online ordering. So you can actually pay online and then they'll deliver it out to your car when you get there. And obviously there's Uber Eats and sort of home delivery as well, but this was that real e-commerce, being able to actually pay before you get there, which I thought was really good. So there's a few different platforms. Bopple's one of them. It's a little bit cheaper than Uber. I know here in South Australia, there's actually local businesses working on these sort of platforms as well. Another really great pivot we've seen is from Lot 100 in the Adelaide Hills. So they're actually a cellar door of South Australian food and craft beverage producers. And what they have done is put together the Lot 100, the grocer. So they're essentially putting together home delivery takeaway bundles of wine, beer and produce delivered straight to people's doors. Farmers markets. So farmers markets as of today are still seen as essential services. So Barossa Farmers Market have popped in place the ability for people to pre-order, so we can certainly still maintain social distance but still get that lovely fresh local food and support the local farmers who are growing it as well. Another one we saw last night, which we absolutely love, was Broken Wood Wine. So they've got, they were very quick off the mark with sort of home bunker down wine packages delivered to your door. But they've also now got, so one of their senior winemakers, Stuart, he was online last night doing a virtual wine tasting with a couple of their wines, which we absolutely loved. So, I mean, they have the benefit of being able to sell their wines as well. But again, even if you can't actually sell your product, this going live, and I'll talk in a bit later around social, this is absolutely fantastic and that real fantastic way to engage with customers. Another great pivot we've seen, and we've seen this popping up all over the country, is off license or license or car self-drive bottle shops. This one at Tormina Hotel, they're selling groceries now through their drive-through bottle shop. Another one, the little country community where I grew up in Tarlee in the mid-north of South Australia, their bakery has also sort of started selling essential pantry and grocery items as well, which is fantastic. Another one here, bookshop, again, this is retail, not so much tourism, but they are doing free book delivery around the Adelaide Hills. So I'm just giving a few different ideas. And accommodation. So as of last night, it's basically recommended that accommodation really only is open for essential services. So this could be health workers, grey nomads who actually don't have any other choice but to bunker down. But for accommodation providers, there certainly is an opportunity to offer self-isolation support for those people that can't be at home to self-isolate. So again, Mayfair Hotel here in Adelaide are offering these packages. And here in South Australia, the SA Health Government actually has a tender out looking for accommodation providers willing to help self-isolation. So I'm assuming, I haven't checked interstate, but I'm sure this may well be happening in other states here in Australia as well. Another really great pivot we've seen is the Sydney Edible Garden Trail. So they have taken their garden trail online. So again, it's not going to be making them financially viable, but they're selling $5 tickets, which is donated back to their local community gardens, and it's actually taking you on a short little virtual tour around the different providers, food gardeners and growers on the trail, which is really fantastic. Another great example, again, unfortunately they're not open, but so there's a number of places that are starting to do live streaming. So Melbourne Zoo was first one off the mark, and they have got live streaming cameras in a number of their animal enclosures. You may have actually seen there was a dancing zookeeper that got picked up on one of their live streams just yesterday, which went quite viral. But again, if you have a look on their website, really great. You can sort of see different animals and what they're doing. This one was the penguins, which I was watching a bit earlier. So again, we've certainly acknowledged this, being able to pivot and innovate in the current climate may not work for everyone, but again, just starts giving you some ideas, of potentially thinking a little bit differently, thinking inside the square of what you might be able to do. So before we move to the next bit page, have we got any comments or feedback from anyone who's doing this already or other great examples they've seen in their communities?
Yeah, so Lauren Ward, she's obviously in the Riverland. She said 919 Wines in the Riverland are doing virtual wine tasting as well. And
Fantastic.
Gina Woodward from up in the Snowy Mountains, she said that Wild Brumby Distillery, they're doing isolation packs of gin and tonic for locals, including a roll of toilet paper. And they are also producing sanitizer too that smells like their schnapps with free delivery. So, you know, really innovative and pivoting their business for the local needs. So she's also just said that Coal Puddle Cheeses in northeast Victoria are doing 6 hours a day of live streaming their goats on their farm. So that's
brilliant.
Pretty cool. Just, you know, maybe a little bit of that meditation, watch some goats.
Yeah, and actually I'm talking live streaming in a minute. I'm talking, I was going to say I'm talking live streaming using social in a moment when I talk social media. So yep, cool, far away.
And Lone Pine Koala Sanctuary also have live webcams as well of their beautiful koalas. Nathan Rogers here, not really sure where Nathan's from, but anyway, he said, I'm encouraging people to take on celebrational activities online for a cookery book he wants to reprint. People can visit Mount Barker Cookery Book on Facebook. I'm looking at getting people to show recipes from the book being made online and screened via the Facebook page just to promote themselves also. So lots of different
fantastic
things happening. So yeah.
That's great. And I think the bit here is really, if you actually have a product you can sell, really, you've got to go local, very, very local in your immediate community, or you have to go online. There really are two only options at the moment. And for everyone else, it's really going to be around just keeping in touch with your customers, of which I'll talk about in social media in a moment. So thank you for sharing those. Sorry, go far away.
Magpie Springs Cellar Door in the Adelaide Hills have a takeaway with great comms, honk for plonk. So thanks for sharing that, Kelly. That's Kelly Coon, one of our wonderful colleagues in the Adelaide Hills. So thanks for that.
Cool. All right, we'll keep them coming. We actually have our tourism business blog article, which we're updating by the day. And so as we find these examples, we're adding them to there, because again, this webinar, while we're recording it today on Thursday, 26th of March, again, it's, you know, there's more and more stuff happening, so we'll keep that blog post updated. Okay, cool. So the next thing really to focus on right now, and I think where a lot of us have been spending most of our time in the last couple of weeks, is really on that keeping communicating. So, you know, everyone is hurting right now, and no one really has the answer as to when this crisis will be over. It certainly looks like we're going to be in this current state for at least 6 months as well. So keeping in touch with people is what's really going to get us through it all and keep our spirits up. So apologies, I can see a spelling mistake there. So I want you to have a think about, who do you actually need to keep in touch with, and what do you need to communicate? So if you haven't already, like I'm sure most of you already have, but if you haven't, really make sure you get set up with some sort of face-to-face video meeting software. Such as Zoom, they've got a free account. Basically, this is the channels that we can keep in touch with people at the moment. Don't send emails, pick up the phone, talk to people on phone, or talk to them on live video conferencing software. So Zoom, free, also Google Hangouts, that's free for the video conferencing. Also messenger groups, so whether it's WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger, a great way to sort of keep in touch with a wider group of people, just as a few tips from actual digital channels and how to actually do that. But when it comes to thinking about communicating, who do you need to communicate with? Firstly, for those of you with staff, really important that you keep engaging with them, you know, keep in touch. Even if they have been stood down, you absolutely will need them when the time is right and we can start operating business again. So again, thinking about how is the best way to keep in touch with them. Customers, current, past and future, really important we keep them updated with where you're at, and I'll talk social media in the next point. Tourism businesses, industry colleagues, trade partners, important to share the pain, you know, keep in touch, everyone's in the same boat, but also important on the flip side, you know, for motivation and sort of sharing and bouncing around of ideas, that sort of thing. And obviously support services, this is more the one-way communication, but, you know, banks, accountants, mental health, whatever you need, asking for help. So what you probably need to do, and you've probably got this in your heads, a bit like what Paige and I have been doing over the last couple of weeks, is come up with some sort of bit of a, we call it an ugly comms matrix, but have a look at all your different stakeholders that you need to communicate with. You can see across the top here, staff, past current customers, trade partners, visitor centres, business colleagues, your regional or local tourism organisations, visitor centres, national and state tourism organisations, tourism industry councils. So have a think about how you're going to communicate with them and what you're going to communicate. So staff, you know, things like text groups on WhatsApp, live meetings, Zoom, that sort of thing. Trade partners, visitor centres, and again, you know, a lot of trade partners are really close friends that you've built up over the years of attending to trade events for some of you. So, you know, Zoom, text chats, whatever works for you, getting them to follow you on social. Business colleagues is a really important one. So really connect with your business colleagues in your region or part of the world to share and bounce ideas. There's been a lot of Zoom wine catch-ups that we've seen last Friday. I know there's quite a few more happening around the country this Friday, and coffee catch-ups, that sort of thing. Regional tourism, local organisations, visitor centres, important to keep them updated with where you're at as well. And your state and national organisations, they're sending out comms, so it's really important that you are getting those, because they're sharing all that information around the, you know, the different stimulus and the different packages and support that is out there as well. And same for the industry council, they're lobbying government for what industry needs at the moment. Again, a great one is also, especially for all of you in your local region, if there is, join your local Facebook group for your sort of regional tourism organisations to really keep in touch. Here in South Australia, South Australia Tourism Commission launched a Facebook group a couple of days ago, See South Australia from Home, which is really fantastic, and it's a spot for all South Australian businesses to sort of share how they're pivoting and innovating their businesses as well. So that's the sort of stuff that's happening all around Australia, so get involved. Also, when it comes to communication, just a very quick one too, if with COVID, for many of you, especially if you're in accommodation, you absolutely need to have a risk management and comms plan in place if for some reason staff or customers get it. So you need to be ready and be, you know, able to help the government health departments with contact tracing, that sort of stuff. If it does happen in your business, you just need to be very fast, open, transparent and human if it does happen. So letting people know, social, email, phone, especially if it's a community case and, you know, people can't be contact traced. And again, work with your health department in your state to do this. So this week, in South Australia, in the Ross, we've had one of the first community cases, and Lyndoch Hill, Mandy and Mark have done they've done it absolutely perfectly. So they've been very open, honest, transparent and very fast with keeping people updated with what's happened. And they've actually had a lot of really positive support from their community as well. They've actually had a couple of their staff contract it as well. So just be, you know, human and open and transparent is sort of our main advice there. And we will talk more social media specifics now. Paige, before we jump into social specifically, have we got any other comments or feedback around the communication? I'd love to hear if anyone's, you know, doing other stuff or things that have worked really well with keeping in touch with people.
Yeah, Gina has just said that Zoom have now limited their free version of their product in terms of functionality, given that so many people are on it, and it's all explained on their website. That's the only sort of update perspective from a comms perspective.
Okay.
So
yeah, no worries. Thank you for that, Gina. And it's a bit disappointing, but I guess it's probably understandable as well. But certainly Skype, Google Hangouts are options as well. You know, FaceTime for, you know, iPhone users as well for that face-to-face comms as well. All right, so next up, going to have a quick chat about social media. So again, a lot of questions. How should you be using it in time of crisis, and what should or shouldn't you be posting? So again, this is just really a few tips to help guide you. I mean, we're already well into the crisis, and many of you are all over this already, but just to give you a bit of our thoughts on it as well. So it's certainly not business as usual, and so we really do need to change tact with our social media posting. I mean, the positive thing is people are spending a lot of time on social media, and, you know, they're at home, but people it's not the time to go quiet. People really want to know how you're going, what you're doing, and so we really encourage you to keep posting, when the time is right for your business, even if you are closed, because people really want to be inspired for when they can travel again. So yeah, it's definitely don't go quiet on social media. So a few tips on what to actually post. Firstly, if you do have any scheduled posts or advertising that was scheduled before COVID-19, please stop them. I actually saw a major hotel brand yesterday still advertising. They'd obviously had missed that. So just double check that to make sure that nothing like that's happening. Secondly, definitely keep your communities updated with what's happening with your experience. Again, we've seen a lot of businesses saying, yep, we've unfortunately had to call it and we now have to close, which is really sad. But again, you can keep it real, authentic and human. It's really okay to share your vulnerabilities in this crazy time. So a couple of examples of good ones I've seen. So Prairie Hotel, unfortunately earlier this week, have called it and said they've had to close down. But really lovely post and massive support from their community as well, talking about that. So basically saying that they will keep you updated as they go through the closure, and sort of sharing what's happening around the place a bit as well. And this was a nice one from Sean Bloxage. So Sean's a tour operator over in Margaret River region. So he's just, like many of you, pretty much business just non-stop cancellations. So he had this post the other day basically saying his brain hurt and he needed to just go out and look at the sunset, which is what he did. And again, just showing that vulnerability, but also really resonated with his community as well. So again, once you've kept people updated on where you're at, what to post. So as time and space permits, do keep posting and keep in touch with your community. Though saying that, just be really sensitive to tone and timing of what's happening in your community in Australia and the wider globe with how COVID-19 crisis is developing as well. So if you can, if there is still stuff going on behind the scenes in your business, great time to be sharing that. Again, around your region, town and business, obviously from a very safe social distance, and also product stories behind the scenes. So it's important to really keep an eye on the future, because people will be absolutely desperate to get back travelling when they can. So, we can keep people's dreams alive. But also with social, just really important to remember that it's very much still quality over quantity. So in our organic news feeds, it's really the priority. Posts are only seen by people, or posts are only seen when there's a lot of commenting and engagement from your community. So less is more, and just be very mindful. Don't post for the sake of it, only if you're really going to help or inspire your potential community, So I'll just share some really lovely examples here. So Margaret River Discovery Company, again, Sean, has basically said that he's going to keep posting from around his part of Western Australia. And I just love this comment from one of his in his community. She's like, please keep posting photos. We need all the beautiful pictures at the moment. So again, that's the sentiment that people are seeing. Lovely example here, live streaming. So live streaming was something we've been talking about the last few years, but it sort of dropped off a bit. But now with everyone at home, there's probably really great opportunities to use live streaming. So Sea Life Sydney Aquarium, they are live streaming animal feedings at different times of the day. So at the moment, as with this webinar is running, they're streaming penguin feeding. Also quokkas tomorrow. Zipline Adventures, also in the Illawarra, actually have a live stream running straight after our webinar at 1:30 Australian Eastern Standard Time, and they're actually taking you for a zipline tour through the rainforest, which I thought was absolutely fantastic. So while they're not open, still keeping in touch and engaging with their community. Kimberley Land Waterfront Holiday Park, Maria and her team, they're always fantastic with their social media. So they are very much focusing on posting holiday here this year in your lounge, and then holiday here next year. So they said they're really going to keep people's Kimberley dreams alive with posts of beautiful waterfalls, boabs and bungles. But in the meantime, stay at home, that sort of stuff. And I love this. They've also updated their profile picture, worth the wait, 2021. Also, question 2, when it comes to advertising, should you be advertising? So our recommendation is really only if it's really supporting people who are self-isolating and adding value to their day or meeting a particular need. So that's if you're offering home delivery or that sort of thing. But again, just be really, really mindful. In the future, only when it's sort of recovery is sort of in sight and travel bans are lifting, proceed with caution. And the reason we say that is very much what Paige and I always teach in the last few years is, you know, positive word of mouth from guests and happy customers is your most important and lowest cost form of advertising. Advertising is less trusted than what someone else says about your business. So really just proceed with care. So I will show you one example which popped up in my Instagram newsfeed last week, which was, I thought was perfect. It was from the Banksia Tree, a little cafe in Port Adelaide here in South Australia. It was very human, it was personable, had a great picture, timing was perfect, and it met my needs. So it was talking about how they are doing home delivery, that sort of stuff. So Paige, have we got any questions around social media before I hand over to you to talk planning comebacks?
Yes, sorry, I just had to turn on my microphone. Yeah, so just a comment here from Navanka, I hope I've said that right. Richmond Valley Council in Northern New South Wales have created a virtual Friday family food day, encouraging locals to grab takeout or delivery. Take a photo on Friday and share it with their friends. And also Lismore community members have also started community Netflix and chill on a Saturday night. So get takeout or delivery and post a photo at home enjoying the meal and a movie. So that's really cool.
Love it.
Lena has just quickly asked, what operator was it again doing the live zip lining? Can you just remember off the top of your head?
Yeah, it's Illawarra Fly. I've actually got the link on our blog article for tourism operators. But I'll have a look for it in a minute and I'll pop it in the chat box because when I hand over to Paige, because that's happening straight after this as well.
Yeah.
Any others there, Paige?
No, that is it.
I was going to say another thing you can do is, I mean, within reason, this is probably more with your consumer comms, is again, if you've had guests travel, you know, get them to share their posts and make sure they hashtag your business or your region, again, to keep that, you know, great content coming through. But it's just being mindful that obviously we don't want to be encouraging travel at the moment, but social is brilliant for really bringing people together and keeping them inspired for future travel, is what I'd say. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hand over to you now, Paige, and Paige is going to take you through what we can do now pretty much to plan your comeback. So even though it feels like a very long way away, we still need to have our eyes on this and to be ready for it. So all good, your end, Paige. I'll hand over to you now.
Yep. Perfect, awesome. Yeah, just reiterating what Becca's been saying throughout the presentation, that we absolutely acknowledge that the situation for the industry is dire. But in the event that you might be able to, you know, put your business on pause and continue operating to support your locals sort of as that sort of essential service, then we've got a few pieces of advice to start working on now, perhaps while things are a little quieter or they've completely stopped, just to ensure that you're ready to pounce when this crisis subsides. So we've called it planning your comeback with a punch, because I think, you know, we really need to flex our muscles and do what we can to get back on the horse, they say. Okay, so the first thing we want you to think about doing for your comeback is to start looking at reevaluating and reimagining your tourism experience. So obviously Rebecca has talked a lot about, you know, some of the amazing tourism businesses that have already adapted and pivoted within the guidelines that the government has given us, which is very slim, but you know, they're trying to make the most of a very terrible situation. But what we want you to think about firstly is to sort of take some time for reflection, thinking about what this crisis has actually taught you about running a tourism experience. We've been doing our own personal reflection about our own business as well, and you know, how we can kind of adapt and continue to be flexible with anything that pops up. So what you do now, think about what you're actually doing now that you hadn't even considered prior to this crisis happening. You know, a lot has happened in the space of 2 weeks. And like Rebecca and I, I'm sure you know a hell of a lot more about yourself, your life and your business. So try and take that sort of information, write it down. You'll notice some gaps that appear, things that you'd wished you'd planned for, things that you wish you'd put in place, you know, write them down. These are the types of things that you can change for the future, and these are the things that you can start working on right now too. So have that time for a moment of reflection for yourself. If anything has come out of this crisis loud and clear, it's that when it all boils down, we have to rely on our community resources and businesses to supply us with nourishment and jobs. So if you have the opportunity to keep your business going, do make a conscious effort to ensure you incorporate as much local produce, products, suppliers, that type of thing in your experience as much as possible. This is not only helping our local economy, you know, during the crisis, after the crisis, but this idea of local immersion is what our future travellers are also demanding. They've been demanding it for ages, but you know, this is our opportunity to really cement our local personality within our experiences. You know, that's what differentiates our town or our destination from the next. So plan to embed, you know, a local experience within your tourism experience moving forward. Also, now is the time to review all of your customer insights. So looking at all of your review sites, customer feedback surveys, your staff insights, and just see what, you know, your customers, visitors and staff have been asking for in the past, and plan to address some of their concerns or adapt your product or service delivery. Your whole business may have changed since those reviews or insights were offered. But you do have the time now to sort of contemplate making big changes without affecting, you know, your day-to-day operation. Also, as we've learnt, necessity is the mother of invention. So let your hair down and let's dream big. You know, it could be an idea from your ability to pivot. You know, that might stick and stay after the crisis settles. So Rebecca sort of shared an example of Lot 100 in the Adelaide Hills, that grocery store. You know, they can order a box, you can order a box of fresh local produce 7 days a week for next day pickup. So that's really great. And that might be something they can continue in the future. Also, Ember Pizza, they've got a heat at home product now. So instead of just doing, you know, your normal takeaway, you know, they've adapted their service delivery to make it, you know, something that could be something that they can do afterwards as well. So, you know, these types of successful transitions in such a tight market at the moment could become the new normal for them, and, you know, help to differentiate their business. Another opportunity could be for you to look at the potential of how you could attract new markets with an adapted business model. So there may be, you know, certain opportunities within your destination to attract niche segments like caravan and camping people, or business events or sporting events. So, you know, use this time to think about how you could cater for these types of groups, or even niche interest segments. So those people that are actually traveling for passions. So this could be the usual suspects of, you know, nature-based activities, food and beverages, that type of thing, or it might even be more niche like bird watching or mountain biking or quilting. You know, now is really the time to start opening up your mind, and you'll get yourselves thinking more creatively, and, you know, thinking about how you can, you know, get different eggs in different baskets to try and, you know, expand your business model. And finally, you know, understanding what our post-crisis visitors' needs and motivations are is going to be key to delivering a sustainable tourism business. So, you know, this data here I got from the Adventure Travel Association of America. They did a study as to what motivates people to want to do adventure travel. And whilst adventure travel is, you know, that not everyone fits in this boat, it outlines what is actually motivating people to partake in those types of activities. Now, the majority of this group want to feel transformed and have an expanded worldview. Now, that is just something that is so overarching, but what that basically means is that people want to feel like they've accomplished something after they arrive home. So we need to really be thinking about what this could mean for you and the experience that you could offer them in the future. So, you know, people are loving stories. They love to immerse themselves in a destination and learn something, feel transformed. So, you know, our job is to tell those stories, deliver that amazing, unique experience, and then cement those memories for those guys, so that when they are home, they are feeling that sort of transformation. You know, it's important to remember we are living our new normal, and even when this whole crisis is sort of over or abated, we will have to continue to live like this type of thing in an ongoing manner. So, you know, start planning your attacks now. Okay, so that's working on your experience. The next one is to just get a few bits and pieces done around your website and social. So, you know, we need to just make sure that our website and social media accounts are displaying the most up-to-date and transparent information as possible. And I think everyone's pretty well got this covered. This is just one of my local restaurants in the Clare Valley here in South Australia. So Seed Street Diner and Takeaway, they actually adapted their business model recently anyway. They were a restaurant, then they turned into a diner and takeaway only a few weeks ago, and now they've had to adapt again. So, you know, they've updated their social media and their website with new trading hours, trading conditions, what their change in experience or their offering is, their links through to social, and, you know, another one is to make sure that, you know, booking engines and booking software are updated. So if you have to have temporarily sort of ceased operations, make sure you're letting people know on your website in some sort of form or manner, as well as social. So the next thing we thought would be a really great time, if you have the time, you know, once you've had time to breathe and focus, we absolutely encourage you to start thinking longer term and start to brainstorm and publish some blog articles for your website. So this will not only help you to help travellers post-crisis, but it will also help your overall website domain's organic rankings in search engines like Google. So we really don't want to lose any momentum there. So if you can, and if you feel like you've got that time to try and be creative, and you do have a little bit of time in your business, this is the time to spend making sure that you're ready to roll as soon as those travel restrictions are lifted. So some of the key considerations are if you are already managing a blog, make sure you update your current articles. So, you know, if you've written itineraries and that type of thing, just pop a little sentence at the start saying, unfortunately, due to the COVID-19, this particular itinerary is unavailable, but we'll let you know when it's up and running again, or that type of thing. So go through all of your blog articles and just make tweaks to those. What we're suggesting at this present time, because things are a little bit uncertain, is to look at writing evergreen articles. Now, evergreen articles are those sort of stories and that won't actually change with the crisis. So, you know, we're lucky in a way that none of our natural assets have been damaged in this process. So we've still got all of our amazing flora and fauna, and, you know, all of those beautiful sceneries and that type of thing. So, you know, that's one thing that we can kind of focus on. Some of the key sort of topics around what you could write about. Think about how you can inspire people. Like Rebecca said, you know, trying to have that sort of positive focus, you know, and inspiring people as to what hasn't changed to keep their dreams alive. The next is helpful stories. So writing stories for the short to medium term, probably more medium term, around this sort of space. Thinking about or trying to preempt what people are going to need to know when those travel restrictions lift. So brainstorming key questions visitors will have, not only around your business offering, but your whole destination. So thinking about, you know, if someone was still thinking prior to the crisis, oh, I want to go to destination X, then, you know, they're probably still going to think that they want to go there, given, you know, the ability to finance that, obviously. But yeah, so, you know, start to brainstorm those key questions and write a blog article per question. Answer the question in full and keep it inspirational as well as helpful. And then we've got our everyday unusual stories. So once business starts to operate as normal, you know, think about what stories that you have that can't be replicated. So a lot of these sort of stories revolve around our people, so staff, some of the visitors, our locals, and also our overall experience. So, you know, in the restaurant, could be in the kitchen, out on tour, in the vineyard, or behind the scenes. People absolutely love those types of things. And from what Rebecca was sharing around the live feeds and that type of thing in this current market, it is absolutely, you know, they're the types of things that people love to see. So, you know, trying to make your experiences accessible to everyone through blog writing is also really great. A couple more things to add to your list with regard to marketing is just to review and update all of your business's online listings. So goes without saying, your ATDW listing, your Google My Business listing, TripAdvisor, you know, make sure any changes in your experience or opening times, that type of thing, are all up to date, and you've got beautiful updated images. And, you know, with ATDW, it's one of those things you just got to keep updating, make sure you've got brilliant images on there, because those listings are published far and wide. Also go through all of your reviews and respond to all of them. You have got the time now. Whilst our reviews are temporarily suspended on Google, it's a good time to go through and, you know, give gratitude to those that have taken time to talk really positively about your business. And so, you know, when we can start operating back as normal, you've got all that fantastic sort of feedback and relationships built from that point. Okay, once you've had time to breathe, as I said earlier, and the mad scramble sort of to secure the livelihood of yourself, your family and your staff, then you may have time to start thinking about upskilling in the areas in which you feel really vulnerable in terms of running a business. These may include areas around risk management or business planning, or it may be around digital marketing. For the latter, there are just a couple of great informative sites that you can lean on to expand your knowledge, and a couple of ones that we always refer to is Skift. They offer some really great research, but also in times like this, perspective as well for the travel industry. Think with Google is basically Google's research arm. They have amazing amount of resources and information around statistics and how-tos around activating Google for your business, and learning how our visitors are using Google to plan and book trips from all different industry sectors. Social Media Examiner is a really great go-to resource for implementation of social media. So, you know, we get a lot of great insights from those guys too, and you can too. We also have our blog too. We've written fairly extensively and have a good library of information around helping tourism operators on how to implement digital marketing tactics and other experience development and business development ideas too. So you can jump in there and have a look if you have the time and energy. Other key business planning opportunities to upskill in may include business continuity plans. Now, we might not have even heard of these until the last couple of weeks, but business continuity plans are basically a plan that outlines procedures and instructions for an organisation in which they can follow in the face of disaster or crisis. So working on your experience and having the ability to adapt and pivot your offering with speed is the absolute cornerstone of this plan. So you need to have a really clear plan of attack for all the facets of your business operations to be able to be agile in times like what we're experiencing now. So have a bit of a look at that. Also, your customer service strategy. So how you deliver your experience in the future will definitely determine your success. Competition in the early days post this crisis is going to be a bit intense, so we've been hearing. And customer service will absolutely make or break the success of your experience. So start planning your customer service strategy now, so that when you're back to your new normal, you and your staff can hit the ground absolutely running. So yeah, making sure you've got that one nailed. And committing to a sustainable business operations is something that you could really think about too. So, you know, investing in solar energy solutions, using sustainable packaging options, reducing your carbon output, you know, reduction of the use of paper, restaurants producing their own food or growing their own food and sourcing supplies locally. All this type of thing, you know, shows your commitment to sustainability. And having time now to plan how your business can remain socially and environmentally responsible is going to be a key draw card for our future traveller. As this study that's been done by J. Walter Thompson, it's been done fairly recently in 2017, the title was New Sustainability Regeneration, and that study sort of found that, you know, people are caring about the state of their planet and they care personally about protecting it. They want to choose sustainable products, but they don't know which ones are actually sustainable. So we need to make sure that we communicate what we're doing. They are also not opposed to paying more for sustainability as well. And they think it is the company's responsibility to make sure that they're doing the right thing in terms of being sustainable. So this is what the new mindful consumer is looking like. And if we can start to support them in this, then, you know, that's something that we can definitely do in the future to make sure that we can set ourselves apart. Okay, so that's a little wrap for planning your comeback, and sort of a bit of a wrap for our advice, I guess. Rebecca, is there any questions around anything that I've just covered?
We've actually got a few we've got a few other questions and a few other feedback. So what I might get you to do is you can finish off this bit and then we'll come back and answer those as well. So I know there's a few that are still there, which we'll address. So I'll let you just finish off and then we'll come back and answer them.
Excellent. No, that's great. So just to sort of finish off, we've just got a little section here as to where to find support. And obviously you're a bit probably bombarded with lots of information and whatnot, but what we suggest you do, and what we're doing for ourselves, and I'm sure everyone is doing, is trying to work out who the trusted sources are. So I guess Tourism Australia, you know, they're a really great resource for that overarching industry information, providing that direction. They're also doing a live update via a webinar, I think it's tomorrow, as to where they're at and what they're doing. So, you know, jump on their webinar. Your state tourism organisations and state industry councils are also an amazing wealth of information too. They are so committed. We've been getting their emails, especially the industry councils, on how, you know, what they're doing, and their ability to curate information and send out what's really relevant has been absolutely second to none, and must be absolutely applauded for their work. Other tourism consultants like us have got such a wealth of information as well. You probably know a lot of them in your own destination or in your own state, but you know, there's so many blogs and online training and resources available through other consultants as well, to be able to help you navigate this new world. Also, you know, if you can, join your local, regional or state sort of closed Facebook groups if they have one, so an industry group. So that's a really great place to keep in touch, and make sure you support each other. Like, give each other a phone call, get on the Zoom and sort of chat through anything. I mean, we've got to look after each other's mental health as much as, you know, trying to help each other with business survival plans and ideas and that type of thing. But really important you get behind each other and support each other, and keep communicating with your region. As Rebecca said earlier, you know, keep those lines of communication open with your state tourism organisation or your tourism ministry council, you know, and feeding back to them what's happening with your business as well. We're obviously here too. On our Facebook page, we're sharing inspiration and info, just like what we've covered today. And, you know, this link here is a link to our immediate response plan to tourism operators that we published last week, that we covered off earlier. We're going to be continually updating this as we see new experiences or new ideas of pivoting and ways to innovate as we move through this crisis. So we'll be looking at it and updating it daily or as often as needed. So jump on there. But that is basically, I'll leave it on the screen, that's basically it from us. So if we want to start answering any questions, Beck, if you want to
yeah, cool.
do that.
We've got quite a few. Should we jump back on camera, or whether our internet will, hopefully our internet will hold out. I'm back on screen. So we've actually got quite a few different questions. So bear with us as we work through them. So Damien Serini, from Tour Divines, you've actually got a lot of great questions which I think are relevant for a lot of people. First one Damien asked is, what about social media competitions? Is that a good time to be running them? Depends on your business. Damien's business is tours, probably planned further in advance than really short term. So for that sort of business where people are, you know, it might take a longer lead time, there is you could potentially do a bit of advertising, but all this other stuff, so, you know, going back to your existing customers, making sure you're getting that advocacy from your past customers, that's really the most trusted form of advertising. But you could certainly try it with a really small group, but just be very mindful of your tone and timing of placement. Yep. Damien's also asked too, what are people really curious about what other operators are doing in terms of refunds? So again, Damien's a tour operator. Some guests are wanting full refunds. While we want to be flexible and accommodating, we can't carry a run on the bank as such in tips ideas. Yeah, this is certainly a challenge for everyone in the industry at the moment, Damien. I think if you financially can, I think giving customers a full refund if they want it, otherwise encouraging them to delay and obviously keep a small deposit. I think you have to be very mindful of people, a lot of people are losing jobs, all that sort of stuff. So do what you can. What are your thoughts, Paige?
Yeah, I would say that too. Also, around, I think Linda Tillman has some sort of suggestions around events as well, and event ticketing and that type of thing. Linda and Kushla, I think they have a post out about that actually, about what the goal is, but seeing if, you know, events say can be postponed, and then you know, those tickets sales can sort of be delayed, I guess, and so the event can still sort of go ahead. I don't think there's anything more than what you've said, but just try and
it's really tricky. It's very tricky. Exactly, it's very tricky from a cash flow point of view in a business. If you have to refund and then you don't have the money to do it, so that's also talking to the banks as well. But I think you've got to do what you can for your customers. I think for that whole customer experience is really important. What else have we got here? There was a few others. There's a couple that have, obviously there's a couple of you here today, regions that have been really severely affected by bushfire as well. So this is just like a double whammy of, you know, slight recovery, and then bang, we've got COVID shutting everything down. Our only thoughts are is really for those of you in bushfire affected regions, this is, again, all the same principles apply. There's a couple of destinations here, you know, use that opportunity for the live streaming, sharing the stories of recovery, get those blog articles going of in prep for when visitors can come back and travel would be a suggestion. Also, let's have a look what else. Someone's asked questions about visitor centres. We've got a blog article up around visitor centres, so pretty much they need to be closed now. It's that face-to-face human connection. So we've got a blog on our website for anyone involved in visitor servicing on how you can support your visitor centres there as well.
Kylie's just got a question here around Google reviews and why they're suspended. So it's just Google have gone down that path just to give businesses a bit of a leg up, just in case there's been, you know, massive changes obviously in their service delivery. They just want to make sure that, you know, businesses aren't getting slammed with bad reviews just because of the turbulent times. So I think that's the main reason why Google have done that. I'm not sure if TripAdvisor have gone down that path yet or not, but possibly as well.
So really once they allow the reviews to be updated, that's when you can work on that as well. You've got a good point here from Nisantha, basically saying encouraging, we'll start promoting full refundable and changeable 2021 holiday packages and continuously engage with customers, and also allow customers to make a provisional booking without much of a deposit or full payment. I think that's a smart one, again, for those operators who travellers travel further out as well. Let's have a look, there's a number, make sure we haven't missed any here. So just as a reminder, there's a few asking about the different resources or slides that we've talked about today. This is being recorded and we're sharing it on our blog. We'll pop it up on social media. In the tourism businesses blog, we'll share the links to the resources that we've talked about today under the different headings, such as the study that Paige talked about with sustainable tourism as well, the adventure travel one as well.
Phoebe Rhodes has just said that the ACCC has advice on their website in regards to refunds for operators. So perhaps go and have a look there first, because they will obviously be able to provide you with the support that that you need in that sort of space.
I think that's the majority of ones. If we haven't, we'll get back to you individually. Is there any other, before we sign off, any other questions around comms, social media, product development, that sort of thing before we sign off? think we've just about reached our time limit anyway.
Yeah.
So, thanks so much, feeling
Lana.
inspired. Well, that's good.
In additional, to convene internal concerns that continue to post on social media is important and is not a risk for promoting travel. Any additional tips to convene internal concerns that continue to post on?
I think, Alana, I think what you're saying, Alana, is just, I think we just have to be very careful when you're posting on social not to be encouraging travel with our communities. I think that's what you're saying, and yes, completely agree. Because yeah, everyone has to stay at home, so it's really just making sure it's very clear this is anything you post is inspiring customers for future travel and when we can travel again as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, cool. Okay,
Lovely.
well, thank you all so much for your time, and really hang in there. Paige and I are absolutely here for you guys. And if you need any additional help, send us an email, help@tourismeschoool.com. As Paige said, really have a look at our blog articles. I've this morning updated our blog article on Facebook Live. Hadn't looked at that one for a little while, so there's that sort of stuff. We'll update those as well as a resource.
Yeah.
Thank you all. Have a great day as much as you can, and we'll hopefully be in touch soon.
No worries. See you guys. Best wishes for the upcoming months.